We will give just another minute here, but welcome everyone who's here so far. There is going to be a little journaling portion. So if you don't have pen and paper handy, go grab one while we wait for everybody or anybody else that's coming on the call. And use the chat feature. We're going to use the chat feature a lot tonight too. So have that up as well. I like to sing, you'll notice.
I love it.
Right, Lindsay?
He also loves to sing at 7 a.m.
Yes, I do. It's usually 8, well, 7 a.m. your time. Yeah.
And I'll listen to it at like 11 when I'm ready. I'm like, okay, I'm ready.
You got to be ready for that energy. Oh, man. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. And if people are joining, then they can, join as we go. Welcome, everybody, tonight. My name's Natasha, and I'm one of the speakers for this call this evening. And just excited that you guys are all here. So let's just celebrate that first and foremost, because you're prioritizing your time and yourself by being on this call tonight to learn some information that's going to be good for your mindset going into the future. So I praise you for that, because that's half the battle. It's just showing up. And shout out to Amanda, who came up with the idea for us to even have these monthly mindset calls. I think they're amazing. And thank you for doing this. And Carly, my co-host for tonight. We are like to say we're excited about this is an understatement. Like we've been messaging each other all day. I'm pretty sure at this point we could probably have enough talking to make this like a month long coaching if we wanted to, with how much passion we have for this. It's hilarious, but we are pumped. We're happy you're here. Tonight we are touching on how to stop saying yes when your body is telling you no, and vice versa. How to even determine what your body is trying to tell you, help with boundaries and acceptance, and how to show up for the things you know are important to you, but you might not feel like you want to do them. You know they're important, but you don't really want to do them. So we're going over a lot of things tonight. And when we're talking about honoring yourself tonight, we're talking about living as your authentic self and speaking your authentic truth with all things: people, relationships, situations, habits, jobs, everything. And this topic hits home, like very close to home for me. I'm a 35, almost 36. When you're this old, they all run together. 35-year-old stay-at-home mom and wife. I have one child, a 4-year-old, very sweet, very sassy, very busy little lady named Lane. And I struggled with this, with honoring myself and boundaries for years, like several years. Once my daughter was born, I became a stay-at-home mom, and I just like dove in head first to motherhood, and I did not come up for air for years. And I realized after a couple years into it, like, wait, where am I within my day? I knew I had a lot on my plate, and I was just ready for space for myself within my days. I was ready to take myself off the back burner. I just had zero clue how to do it. And anytime I tried to do it, it wouldn't last. So long story short, Lindsay here, one of my best friends, introduced me to this amazing community within Beachbody. And it was how focused this community is on inner growth and self-worth and mindset. It was so much more than I anticipated this community to be. I truly finally had all of the tools that I needed to start getting consistent with taking myself off of the back burner. And that feeling, that support, that love, and like showing myself that I could do it, that feeling just was incredible and empowering, and it lit a freaking fire within me and this passion to help others who needed help taking themselves off the back burner and learning how to prioritize themselves. I just really wanted to share the tools that I was learning about. So much so that on top of, coaching with Beachbody, I also am now a certified life coach and Reiki healer. So I can help people wherever they are on their journey. So yes, this topic is just one I'm really passionate and happy to share some tips on with you all tonight. And tonight, we just want to help you become more aware of honoring and prioritizing what's right for you instead of what everybody else wants or expects from you. I think so many times we overload our schedules and we overload our plate just completely based on expectations of others. We'll keep saying yes, yes, yes. So we're not letting anybody else down. And we're saying no to ourselves when we do that. Or we don't speak up about certain things that are important to us and our needs because we fear the reaction and response from another person. And it feels easier to do what's expected, right? We basically minimize what we want and need while prioritizing other people's wants and needs, which is a quick way to leave us feeling drained, annoyed, stressed, and more often than not, resentful. So that's not ideal. And we want you to get away from that. We really want to give you some tools tonight that will help you lead a happy life, not based off of doing things to make other people happy or things that you feel obligated to do. And we don't want you to play it small. And that's not to say by honoring yourself, we want you to say, well, don't care about anybody anymore. I'm only going to do what's right for me. And I'm just going to be selfish and who cares about anybody else? Like, that is not what we're saying. What we want it to change to is where you're thinking, how can I honor what feels right for me? So I'm living a life aligned with what's important to me. And then that allows me to show up for life and those things and people I care about in a more positive, present, and loving way. I think so many people get stuck on putting yourself first equals being selfish, and it's truly not that. When you prioritize yourself and your needs, you're able to fuel yourself so that you're able to show up for life and those things that you care about in a better way. So I would love if you could put in the chat section right now how you feel when you force yourself to do something that you don't necessarily want to do, something that doesn't feel aligned with you, or when you say no to something you actually really wanted to do. So I would love to see what any of you guys have to say about that. Yes, didn't come up for air. Yep. Anxiety. Yes. For me, when I agree to something I don't want to do, or I say no to something I really did want to do, I'm annoyed, like all day annoyed, rage. And I'm thinking about it and it just kind of spirals throughout the day because it's always leaning over my head, like that thing that's coming that I agreed to do that I really don't want to do. And now I'm stressed about it and grumpy. Yes. Like you guys are saying overwhelmed, annoyed, anxiety, irritable, AF. Yep. Attitude shifts. Yes. Thinking about something and don't say it because you're worried about what the other person feels. Yes. So many times we're making ourselves feel this way because it feels easier than worrying about upsetting the other person. So we'd rather upset ourselves than somebody else. And that negativity, that anxiety, that everything that you guys are saying, the irritability, overwhelming, it can just keep spiraling. And that's what we really want to avoid. Showing up for things in a negative space, like we're listing over here, how we'll show up even though we didn't want to, all of this is probably not the way we want to be spending time with people. It's not helpful for them. It's not helpful for us. We're not happy and present and doing things that are aligned with us, right? So step one is just figuring out what you want, because sometimes it's hard to tell what we actually want when other people's feelings are involved. So I'd love for us to start doing a quick journal activity to try and decipher between a full body yes and a full body no, and how that feels for you, so that you can know what that means. And that will help you determine in the future if something is aligned with you and your values and how you're feeling, and when it isn't. So then you can start to determine, what actions and boundaries to take based off of that. So if you have your pen and paper, I would love for you to get that out now. And what you're going to do is just think about yourself sitting on a bench somewhere, and then having someone who you love come up and sit next to you, someone who makes you really, really happy. You always have a great time with them. They're sitting right next to you. Write down how that feels, and I'll give you a minute for that. We're focusing on the feeling. What's the energy like? Are there any colors or emotions attached to it? Just write down how you feel when somebody you love sits down next to you. And now I would like for you to imagine that you're on a bench again, and someone that really frustrates you, someone who's negative or someone you usually try to avoid, comes and sits right next to you on the bench. What does that feel like? What emotions are attached to it? What energy? Any colors? I'll give you a moment for that one too. Okay, as you're finishing up, I would love for you to share in the chat how you feel. We already have some in there now. The full body, yes, feeling giddy, excited, happy, goofy, comfortable, silly, open, and then sitting next to somebody more negative, feeling suffocated, anxious, red, black, tight throat, heavy chest, feeling the need to escape, feeling like I'm performing, feeling at peace versus feeling heavy. Yes, love that. For me, it's a lot of those things as well. When it's a full body yes for me, when I'm sitting next to somebody I love on the bench, it just feels like love. It's a smile. I want to lean in, like it feels warm, light, bright. It's a space I want to stay in. And then if it's a full body no for me, it's the opposite. Like I'm feeling closed up. I'd rather lean away. It's feeling dark. It's feeling cold. I want to distance myself from this space. Let me see what more of you guys are saying. Out of your skin, comfortable versus insecure and icky. Yes. Get me out of here. Abort. Abort. Mayday. Love it. Yes, I really want you to keep this piece of paper with you, and I want you to keep these feelings in mind going forward. Carry this journal page with you. As you are able to realize and determine and feel what your authentic self wants and needs and values, you can start to create life around that. So someone asks you to do something, if you're feeling those feelings you just listed for your full body yes, you know that's what you want to be doing. If you're feeling some of those things you listed for your full body no, you know it's not something that's aligning with you. So you can create a life around that, and you're able to feel less out of balance and less overwhelmed and less stressed and less drained. And the thing is, most of us already know what we feel. Our full body yes or no is immediately what pops into our head as soon as we're asked something. And it's usually just followed with a but, so that we confuse ourselves. It sounds like, well, I really don't want to go. That's your no. And then you say, but I know they'll be disappointed if I don't go, so I should probably go. Or it's saying I don't want to go, but or sorry, saying I do want to go, but then I'd be leaving my husband with the kid, you know? So you're saying no, but you do want to go, or you're saying yes and you don't want to go. It's what comes after the but that is something that could just be dropped away, and you have your full body yes or your full body no right there. It could be, I really need to tell my mom to stop dropping by so much, but I know that will hurt her feelings. You know, you can tell what's in your heart and what feels right for you right away. And we usually kind of talk ourselves out of it when we keep our thinking going. So, can you guys relate to any of that? I want to hear it in the chat. I love this. The butts. Yep. The butts. It's true. You have your answer right there. The but always gets us. I want you to honor that yes or no before the but, which is hard for all of us, especially if you struggle with any codependency issues, or you're an empath where you're very aware of how your actions can impact other people emotionally. But we just cannot live our lives for other people, and other people's happiness is not our responsibility. Bottom line, I will repeat it. I know we got some empaths in here. We cannot live our lives for other people. Other people's happiness is not our responsibility. I am not in control over how someone reacts to the way I want to live my life. And most of the time, our loved ones and the people we care about who respect us, they're going to understand and respect and honor our boundaries that we create, because they want us to be happy. They want to show up for us in the way that makes us feel happy and loved. They just don't know how to honor that until we make it known to them. Okay. So this is when it's time to start putting boundaries in. And there are some really great personal development books out there for codependency if you need more help with that, because I know it's something a lot of people do struggle with. But so now that we know how to tell what's aligned for us and what's not, this is where boundaries come in. This can look like canceling plans or only allowing a certain amount of plans on your calendar each week. Limiting how often you talk to people who are negative and just don't make you feel good. Limiting what you say to certain people and how much info you share them. Like, my grandma's really negative, so I don't really give her any negative things about my life. I'm just going to give her the positives because I don't want her to worry about me, you know, and it makes our conversations better. It could look like whether you're going to rest today or take action today based on how you're feeling. It could be taking time for yourself, even if it means somebody else has more work to do because of it. With having boundaries, you're really going to be able to fuel yourself better and then show up in a way that is better for those people that you care about. And when you're honoring what's right or wrong for you, they're going to start to see why it's important to you. And they're going to start to see that change in you, and they're going to learn to honor it as well. And if people are not honoring it, then it's probably pretty good that you have those boundaries with them to begin with. So here are some tips I have for boundaries. Understand that no is a complete sentence. I'm personally starting to get a little bit better about not feeling the need to defend my boundaries. Lindsay will know I kind of had an annoyance last week where I did feel like I had to defend my boundaries and I was not happy about it. Like, don't like to have to defend my boundaries anymore. I just want them respected. A simple, I'm not available, but have a great time. And I can't wait to hear about it. If you're not going to go to something, like, that's all that's really needed. or a simple, I'm not available that day, but thanks for checking, But if it is going to be hard for someone to hear, and you really want to give them a little more so that they can understand where you're coming from, and you can kind of work with them to learn to honor the space you're coming from. If it's a big change from where you used to be, that could look like, um, I really need this weekend to rest, or I'm just really realizing I can't handle as much on my plate as I used to. So I'm trying to create better balance. Let's plan this in a couple weeks. Or just saying, like, I know I used to be okay with this in the past, but I'm really starting to learn I need something different. Can you help me with this by, and then adding in however they can help you. If it's rescheduling plans, if it's helping out with the kids more so that you have more time for yourself. Is it like calling somebody less? Whatever it may be, have those boundaries and find ways that feel aligned with you to reinforce them. So, what is something that you struggle with putting a boundary in place for when you really want to? So, what's something you can think of that you struggle with saying yes or no to when you want to be doing the opposite? I would love to see in the comments. Let me see here if any of you guys have said more. Knowing the difference in what you actually want to do and things people think you should do. Yes. Yes. We can't live based on what other people want us to do. We just can't. It's not a happy life that way. So let's see. All right. All right. So with the things that are full body yes, that you don't always necessarily want to do, I just wanted to give some tips on you with that, because there are some things that we know we need to be doing, but we don't always want to do it. This could be like working out. Like, you might not always want to work out, but you value your health. And same with going to the doctor or dentist. You might not want to go. It's not real fun, but again, you value your health, so you're going to show up for it. Could be time with extended family. It might not always be easy, but family is a core value of yours. So you're going to prioritize it, and the importance of it. Or it could be work. I don't think anyone enjoys going to work every single day, but the value that it has within your life. So in these types of situations, I would just have 3 quick tips for those. First is to switch to a more positive perspective of it right away. What value of yours does it align with? And just focus on that. Like I said, with the working out, like if you're not feeling like working out that day, but it aligns with your core value of health and wellness, it's asking yourself, is it a full body no for me today? Sometimes you might need rest, and that's okay. And then say, okay, but I know tomorrow I can show up for this. You might have to just kind of make some adjustments if needed to make it more aligned with you. And that is my step 2. Once you have the value in your mind, make adjustments if it's needed. Maybe it's a different workout program that you need that gets you more excited. Maybe it's a new doctor who's more aligned with your values. Start to see where you can have adjustments, how you want to limit family time, but still have them around. What adjustments can you make so that you feel more in that full body yes energy? And then 3 is just focus on the good, those positives that you determine based off the values you have with working out, and that you value your health. Keep those in mind so that your thoughts don't derail into the negative and you feel like you have to do it, even though you don't want to do it, because that line of thinking can spiral so fast. And as a side note on that, our thoughts have to be under control in a lot of situations in life. Mindset is everything. That's why these calls every month are so important. Our thoughts create how we feel. What we think about, we feel within our body, and how we feel impacts our body, our symptoms within our body, and what we experience throughout the day. So if you're thinking negative about things, you're going to feel negative. You're going to be grumpy, anxious, frustrated, have a low patience. That takes impact on how you're going to show up within your day, how you're treating people, how you're viewing the events that happens to you. Like minor inconveniences could snowball into this huge thing. So just get back to that loving perspective based on your values as often as you need. Other things that help me kind of like change the station and move out of that negative space are music, dancing, singing, personal development, call a friend, get a hug, but switch up your thinking however you can ASAP, because our thoughts are our life experience and we can't linger in the negative too long. So I hope that this has helped you guys. One, just start to identify any ways you may not be honoring yourself. Two, how to determine what feels right and wrong to you, and the values of putting boundaries around those full body yes and full body no's and what they can look like. And I know Carly has some amazing tools and actions to share with us to build on all of this. So I'm going to hand things off to her now, and she's going to just help us really get started on implement all of these things. Carly, hi.
Oh, that was fire. That was really good. Wow. I needed to hear a lot of that. Anybody else? Anybody? Yeah. Totally needed to hear that. Like I said, or like she said in the beginning of the call, hi everyone, I'm Carly, by the way. I'll introduce myself in a second, but you know, I was also a mom who struggled with this, and we had so much to talk about because I think every one of us can identify, even if you're not a parent, being a woman right now or just living in the world that we're living in, we need boundaries. And we weren't taught that as kids. Did anyone go to school learning that, or did their parents teach them about boundaries? Anybody? No, right? So thank God we have it now. So for those of you that don't know me, I see a ton of friendly faces and all my favorite people. But my name is Carly. I'm from Chicago, born and raised, and I'm a single parent right now. I am a coach, just like most of these women here. And I like to change my name, but really I help people with transformations, and it always starts from the inside. I also do marketing for a roofing company, and that's very interesting because a lot of this business requires so much mindset that industry doesn't have. So it's kind of funny how God works and brings you all these gifts. One of the reasons why I love coaching is because I didn't have an easy upbringing. I mean, I did in a lot of senses, but I grew up in a home that was loving and supportive, but also a little bit chaotic. I had one parent who was very codependent on an alcoholic. So my father was an alcoholic. My mother was like the nice codependent, like, you know, that type of thing. So if you're into therapy or woo-woo spiritual stuff. So like my role in the family was always like keeping the peace and helping everyone and not really staying true to myself and offering to help all my friends and give people solutions and always being the helper and ignoring my own needs. Can anybody relate? Right? You don't even have to have that upbringing. So now here I am, fast forward, I'm an adult who's like a business owner, and I'm a single mom. And I also went through another traumatic experience, which was getting divorced. And that required me to not only just get the rug ripped from underneath me, but really rely on myself. So I call it my biggest blessing, and my ex is my greatest teacher. And we still have a pretty good relationship considering all things. And with that being said, I just want to say that there's nothing, just because that's my experience in life doesn't mean that I'm any better at any of these things that we are sharing on this call than anybody else. It's just so you kind of understand where I'm coming from and you can see yourself in my story and that we can work together. So what I'm going to do is piggyback on a lot of stuff that she said. The full body yes is great. I like to say, fuck yes, but whatever. We'll just pretend. Sorry, earmuffs. I hope no children are around. Mine's in the other room. She's never heard that word before. But one of the things that I wanted to share is that throughout this experience of coaching is that I have, it kind of caught fire for me, because once you learn about one thing, you're like, oh, I could create a habit. Okay, that creates my thoughts. Okay, but what happens when my feelings get in the way? You know, all of a sudden, you start investigating in yourself more. And that's where the journey of growth is just endless. So with that being said, I got real interested in somatic healing work. I'm becoming a breathwork facilitator, and I'm really going to help you guys with some things I've learned around the trauma work I've done, and then also somatic healing tools that I've learned and invested a lot of money on. So I'm giving them away for free because everybody needs to know this and they should not have to pay for it. So my point is that I want you guys to understand that it's very difficult to even, what I was noticing, everything Natasha was saying, I was like, oh, fire, fire. And then I noticed that I get caught up in my emotions and sometimes you can't figure out a way to like get through that. And then you start beating yourself up. Anybody ever do that? Where you're all of a sudden like self-sabotaging, like I should be feeling this way, or I should be taking this, but I don't know how. So that really comes from where you are in, you know, your state of mind. So the two things that some of you may have heard this, some of you may not have, but you really want to know that you can't go from annoyed, irritable to happy to like the perfect state of mind. It just doesn't, your brain and your body cannot work like that. So what I like to share is that you are going to build something just like you would build a muscle. It's called emotional fitness. It's just a simple term. I guess let's just call it that for this call. So you want to practice doing this stuff. You know, it's easier said than done. Going to prepping, like to go to the dentist, you don't really want to go. Maybe you have a fear around it. Maybe you want to go to a family party and you're just like, I know my brother's going to say something that's going to drive me crazy and it's going to trigger me. Or my mom's going to do that thing again when she eats weird food and she's making a noise and everything is just, you know, you're kind of working yourself up to get there. So how can you center yourself and calm yourself in those moments? So one of the things that I wanted to share with you guys that her and I kind of created and collaborated on our own is an acronym. And it's called Let's Take Action. Because if we're sitting there in our feelings, we're not going to be able to move forward. So first things first, I can share my screen with you guys, right? Can I, Amanda? You think so? Probably. Well, if I can't, I can always put it in the chat. Can I do it or no? Oh, let's see if I can figure it out. Oh, I'm the host now. Now we can do it. Thanks. Okay. So basically, I'm going to share an acronym with you guys called ACTION. And the first step in action is, you know, these are similar things that Natasha shared, but it is accepting where you are. Has anybody ever done that, but still have a hard time doing it? You just accept where you are and you have awareness around that, because that's the first way to show up. That's like if you're working out and you're trying to get results, that's just showing up for the workout, accepting where you are and acknowledging, okay, I know I'm feeling weird in this moment and I have to do something about it, right? The next thing is being conscious of what you can control. Okay, my kids are screaming, my mom's triggering me, my brother's triggering me, whatever's happening, you know, I have these fears. So being conscious about what you can control. What can you control right now? All you can do is control yourself. So that's the C. The A is accept. The C is conscious, consciously controlling. Then we're aware. It's our thoughts. So like Natasha said earlier, our thoughts create feelings and they really create the essence of who we are. So as long as we can just identify what we're feeling, that's great. That, believe it or not, that's the most you need. And a lot of us sit there and we're like mad because we're mad, or mad because we're sad, or because we're grieving or whatever. Good. Stay there and work through that. There is something I'm going to share with you guys. There's an image. So for example, like if you're in, let's say, worry, and you're just super worried about something, like you cannot get over the fact that your daughter is with somebody, or your son or one of your kids is, you know, with a babysitter, and you're unsure of how the day is going to go, or like you're worried about getting from point A to point B because you don't have enough gas in your car. The next motion that you should feel is doubt, and then disappointment. And then you're going to move your way all the way up to frustration. And it's just this slow climb. So try to give yourself some grace as you do that. There's a great book called Super Attractor, and she talks about the emotional scale, and she gives actual examples of like a kid going through his thing. So there's a lot more. I could talk about that all day, but I will keep moving for the sake of time. So you want to make sure you understand your thoughts, you're accepting where you're at, you know what you can control, it's yourself, you're aware of now how you feel. Now what you can do is start to transform where you want to go. And that's where, this is a fancy term for like being high vibe or whatever you want to call it, but imagine where you want to be. So if you can't do that, I'm going to give you a little tip and a tool right now. This might be weird to you. I do it all the time in front of Ava. And the first time she ever heard me do it, she thought something was wrong with me. but I explained it to her, and now she understands that that's what I do when I'm trying to regulate my nervous system, because I do get anxiety and I do go through these things. So one of these things I learned, her name's Sarah Baldwin, and she's an amazing somatic healer. If you ever a chance to work with her or just follow her, you'll get so much nuggets from her. But one of the things that you want to do is vibrations and singing are all going to be able to help your nervous system just move from one emotion to the next. So I do this thing, it's called the VOO sound. Has anybody ever heard of this or seen it? The VOO. So the VOO sound is going to come from your diaphragm. So sometimes we breathe with our chest mostly, but you want to go from your diaphragm. And one of the things that you can do is, this is all it sounds like. You're going to push air as long as you can and make this noise as long as you can. It's kind of weird if you're standing in line at a grocery store or something, but if you got to do it, you got to do it. And it just sounds like this. And you do that for as long as you can until you get all the air out. So yes, I do that in my house. I've gotten in my car and done it. There's easier ones where you're not making sounds and sounding like a psycho, but for sake of just not calling ourselves names on this call like I did, we're just going to say this, a really good one. I feel like for me, that's the most impactful. You can do some breath work. If you know breath work, that's easy too. But another thing you can do if you're in the midst of like chaos and you don't want to make a weird sound, like I just did, you can actually use your peripheral vision. So your eyes have a lot to do with your nervous system, your brain, the stem of your back, and all sorts of things. So if you focus your attention on one thing, like right now I'm looking at the bottle of my soap on my sink, but I'm actually also paying attention to how beautiful this light is above my head, above my head. So I'm not actually looking at the light, but using my peripheral vision. So you're going to focus on one thing, but then you're going to start to actually visualize all the things around it, and just take a deep breath and like see how that makes you feel. Like you're present because you're in a space with everything else in this room. But if you start to focus on just one thing, it helps you move your senses, helps you move your nervous system. I can practice this with you guys if you want, but that's another thing where you're silent and you're kind of just working through that, okay? Because what you're doing in that moment is you're imagining where you want to go. So that's your I. Accepting, consciously controlling thoughts or feelings. We know that right now you're imagining where you want to go, where you want to be. So that also helps with two things. So one, you want to get out of this state, but start thinking that way. Start becoming her. Start imagining where you're going to go, right? And then you can also do this in advance, you guys, which is something that I try to do. Like every time I go somewhere or do something that's going to bring me a little bit of, I don't know, feels. I try to imagine how it's going to go beforehand. That's just called visualizing and kind of sitting with it and all that. And then the outcome, what would you like the outcome to be? So always the outcome, imagining where you want to go. What is the outcome going to be? No matter what bricks or road blocks you hit, whatever the case is, what is that going to look like for you? What do you want it to look like? Because you have control on how you react, right? And if you're feeling mad, cool. Go focus on something. Go in the bathroom and do the weird boo sound for as long as you can. And I can practice with you guys if you want to message me afterwards. I know I did it quick, but it really does help. It also helps the more you do it, the more you're actually signaling your nervous system that you want change. So this is, again, building fitness. You're building a muscle. All these things that you're doing consistently, this action, you're doing it. And the N just stands for now. So it's accept conscious thoughts, imagine outcomes now. So you're kind of provoking yourself to do something about the way you feel. And as you're setting boundaries, you want to like blurt out something to somebody, but you're creating boundaries for yourself, right? So what's something you can do? Accept where you are. Consciously control yourself. Feel your feelings, imagine the outcome, and do it now. Don't wait. So I hope that helps you. If you have any questions at all, I would love to like answer them for you. I don't know if anybody said anything. What do you mean by money blocks? Ooh, money blocks. Oh, how do you get past money blocks? You want me to answer that? I don't actually know yet, because if I did, I'd be a millionaire, but I honestly think it has a lot to do with visualizing, and this is the spiritual side of me. I think that it has a lot to do with understanding what your money blocks are and visualizing what you want to do with them. Probably some nervous system work, probably some sit therapy, probably some somatic stuff. I think it's, right? Like anybody else, I don't know the answer to that, because otherwise I think I'd be in a different place. But I have manifested money and completely changed my financial situation in years. But I'm not an expert on that. Oh, that's Alexa. Sorry. So I think that is about it. That's all I really had. But we did want to provoke you guys to do one thing for yourself this week that maybe you haven't done in prior weeks. And then I'm going to pass back over to Natasha, and we're going to give you these slides this one slide that I put together, and something for Instagram if you want to share it. But if you could, and even if you want to write it in the chat, what's one boundary that you can put in place this week that you've never done? And maybe something that you heard on this call, or something that like prompted you when we were talking. Like for me, one boundary I'm going to put in place is phone blocks, time blocks with working. I need to get a little bit better at that. And that's just so I can spend time on my values, which is like being with my daughter. Like I felt like I was on my phone a lot today, and I'm working through the guilt. I'm not going to feel guilty, but like I'm aware that I feel guilty, and I'm like, I shouldn't, because I'm trying to provide her a better life. So I'm just talking you through this. But I also want both, because it doesn't make me feel good in this space. So I want to create a boundary for myself. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to take a 1 hour block next week, or this whole rest of this week, and just make that devoted time for my daughter and turn off my apps, my phone. Cool. What are you guys going to do? Maybe think about it and let us know, right? Does that sound good? Cool. Okay. That's all I have for now. Natasha, tell them more about what they can do.
I love that you just said that, because I've been telling myself for weeks, I'm like, I need to like put my phone in another room for an hour every single day. And that's just my time to be with Lane. And then, I like, that's what you use your phone for so much, and you're like, oh, it's in the other room, crap. And you got to go get it for something that's like not related to anything, but then you get sucked back in again. And it's like, whatever I need can wait an hour. So that's my boundary this week as well. And I love, love, love what you shared about the VOO sound, and like that where you're focusing on one thing and looking. And I feel like it's like the more mature adult version of my change the station, which I talked about, like putting on music and dancing and singing. And like the song I like, my go-to song for that is like Back That Ass Up, because I cannot be in a bad mood with that song playing. Like I am going to move my body.
That
I'm
should
going
be
to
a
sing.
somatic healing tool, just saying.
I was like, I'm pretty sure she said vibrations and singing, and like there is a lot of shaking and dancing and singing that goes along with that song. This is just the more grown up version. I feel like I love it. I love all of these tools. Yes. And thank you guys so much for being on this call. Like, I just love this community so much. This community brought Carly and I together. I actually have never met her before in person in my life, but I feel like she's one of my close friends, and I could see her tomorrow and feel like you've been in my life my whole life. pretty much. So this community is just so much more than I anticipated when I came in here. So much more than just what I thought Beachbody was, just working out and, drinking your shakes and focusing on nutrition. And it's so much more than that, because there's so much you have to do to even want to show up to take care of yourself. It's the support, it's the love, it's the growth, it's the mindset, it's all of it, the love. And I'm so thankful for it, and for all of you who are a part of this community. And if you are on here or watching the replay of this and you want more information on this community and all that it brings, please let Carly or myself know, or whoever has invited you to watch this call, because it's bomb. And I would not be where I am today without the support from all of these women, encouraging me to continue to keep growing and to keep learning and to keep bettering myself. And I am so thankful for it every day. I'm thankful for these calls and all of you. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Do you have anything else you want to add, Carly? Or
No, amen, sister. And yes, thank you all for being here and dealing with my humor and everything else. But we really appreciate it. And if there's anything we can answer after the fact, like, just let us know. We have a little Instagram story thing that I made and I put in the chat. So if you're not in that chat, we can get it to you, but it looks like this, you guys. So it's kind of like, if you want and you feel like we don't get anything out of this, by the way, like, we're not like, oh, do this and we'll get like, we're just doing it because we love you and we want to send love. So it's like,
no, we're getting millions of
yes.
dollars.
Oh, we're manifesting it. That's how we get rid of
Yes.
money blocks. That's what we just came up with right now. No, but really, if you want to put this in like your stories and just tag us or tag somebody on this call or whoever invited you on the call, it doesn't even have to be us, but our Instagram handles are on there, and it might spark up a conversation with somebody that you have no idea needs some of what we just said right now, even if it's just like one little nugget, like they're feeling crappy about themselves. Like, let's just spread the love and make sure that people know they're supported right now. I feel like everybody just needs it more than ever. So we can share this with you. And thank you again. That's all.
Yes, and the call is recorded. There will be a link to share. So if somebody does contact you about what does this mean and how, like, I would love to hear more about that, you can just send them the link as well. We'll put that will be within the Facebook chat too. So thank you, everybody. I hope you have an amazing night. That's the last of my singing.
Oh, I will miss it.
Goodbye.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being on.
Bye. Thanks.
I think you're the host now, Carly, so you might have to stop the recording.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that. Bye-bye.
Oh, Amanda's the host now. You got it, Amanda?
Oh, yeah, I should. It doesn't tell me until I'm done.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go. Stop recording.